everybody, this is JP, your online personal trainer. First things first, I'm going to try to make these video intros a little bit quicker for you guys so you guys don't have to be watching super long videos. I'll leave the long topics for my podcasts. Second thing is that I am going to try to put music on this video, some background music, because again, there have been some gripes from people watching my videos. They want a little bit of background music. It'll kind of make the video a little bit more interesting, so I definitely will try to do that. If I haven't done that, then there must have been some type of problem, because again, I'm not really good with electronics and stuff like that, so I'm gonna try to. And the beat is gonna be from Rock Solid Beats, so I give a shout out to them. Their link's gonna be in the description. They're letting me use the beat for free. I am still gonna be able to monetize this video, so again, I appreciate them letting me do that. Next up is please check out my website. It's exercisesciencepodcast.com. That's kind of like my the website's kind of like my fitness hub. It has quick links to all my social medias. It has all podcasts that I've done so far on YouTube that you guys can download for free. So if you guys want to download my podcasts, you can listen to them offline or while you're in the car. Please go check that out. And lastly, please check out my Patreon. It's patreon.com/JPFitness. I got a lot of cool, unique fitness rewards on there for all, you fitness enthusiasts out there. All right, on to the topic of the video. Previously, in one of my last videos, someone asked me to do a video on repetition speeds. I did do a video on this before a while back, probably like a year ago, but again, I'm gonna go over it a little bit again, post a different study down below. I'm pretty sure it's a different study. If not, I'm gonna take a different angle on it and just tell you guys a little bit more in-depth information on it. And the guy's question was, I think it was a guy, but the guy's question was, basically, how fast should you be lifting on the eccentric, concentric, and I'm not trying to give any cop-out answer, but it varies, but I kind of got where he was aiming for and how fast in his question. And the study that I'm going to link down below in the description basically comes to the conclusion that fast concentrics, or the part where you're accelerating the weight, fast concentrics like explosive, will more than likely help your strength gains. It'll help you get stronger, it'll help you lift more weight. And this will indirectly help you with hypertrophy gains. The study took two different groups and in a very well-controlled environment, and they tracked the temperature. I'm pretty sure they tracked food. They watched the lifters. One group, both groups lifted the eccentric portion of the lift. I think it was bench. Oh yeah, they did bench press 3 times a week. Both groups lifted the eccentric portion at the same speed, but one group lifted the concentric portion of the bench press at maximum velocity as fast as they could do it. The other group lifted it at half velocity. So basically, whatever their max was, they did it half as fast as what they could possibly do. When they were doing the lift, the group that did it as fast as they could on the concentric, they didn't really need any cues, just do it as fast as you can do. The group that was doing it at half velocity, they had a little cue marker, like a beeper, to tell them when to go up or when to slow down or to speed up if they weren't going to the proper tempo. So basically, it was well regulated. So the only thing that was different between the two groups was the velocity of the concentric, how fast they lifted it. And again, they came to the conclusion that fast concentrics more than likely will help your gain. So the gist of it is, if you're looking to get stronger or if you're looking for hypertrophy gains, I would recommend lifting your concentrics on most exercises as fast as you can. Now, you're not going to be able to lift it as fast as you can, because technically, if you lift it away as fast as you can, you're probably going to end up throwing it. Like if I told you to take a curl and lift it as fast as you can on the concentric, I guarantee you're going to be able to throw it up into the air. That's a little bit at least, especially if you're working with sub-maximal weights. Maybe not near maximal weights, but sub-maximal weights, you're probably going to be able to throw them up in the air a little bit. So you're not going to be able to lift them as fast as you possibly can, because you have to kind of decelerate the weight, again, or you're going to throw it. Think about a curl. If you curl as fast as you can, you're going to have some type of deceleration there, or you're going to be hitting yourself kind of a little bit. But again, lift it as fast as you can under control. Again, but there are some caveats to this. Again, it's not just every single exercise on every single situation you're going to lift concentrics as fast as you can. Again, if your goal is strength or hypertrophy, most exercises I would do that. But the caveats are, one is specificity is king. Specificity is king. So if let's just say you're training not for hypertrophy and you're not training for strength directly, but you want to get stronger for a sport or something, but you're training an exercise, like let's just say you're an MMA fighter and you're training grappling positions. Not all situations in grappling have fast concentric. Some of them are more isometric holds, some of them are more slow concentric, some of them are eccentric loads. things like that. If you're training for a sport, if you're training for a specific thing, like let's just say you're training for, you and your friend, hypothetically, let's just say you and your friend are seeing who can hold the plank the longest. Obviously, fast concentrics aren't going to help you a ton in a plank hold because there is no concentric. It's just an isometric hold. So again, you have to think of what are you training for specifically. Again, if you're training, if your just goal is to get stronger and your goal is to gain muscle, then I would most of the time, not all the time, train the concentrics pretty fast. So again, you have to think about specificity, and overall, if you train fast concentrics, but whatever you're going to do in your sport or whatever your goal is nothing to do with fast concentrics, you're going to be hindering yourself in the long run. You may see results from doing fast concentrics and whatever you're trying to carry over with, but again, if it's not specific to what you're trying to do, I would recommend you got to train for what you're trying to do. It's as simple as that. Other exceptions are new lifters. If you're a new lifter, then, or I guess new lifters kind of applies to new lifters, or if you're new to an exercise. You might not necessarily be a new lifter, but you're new to an exercise. For example, if you're trying to do, let's just say you're doing powerlifting and you're trying to make a transition over to Olympic lifts. Yes, Olympic lifts are extremely explosive, but at the beginning, you're not going to be throwing the bar as hard as you can. You're going to be doing some technique work with, or you're going to be trying to learn the movements at maybe slightly slower speeds. Or if you're just a new lifter in general, if you're not good with technique, I would not recommend exploding on the concentric. You probably don't really know how to control it, or you don't know technique. So those are some instances that you may, if you're training yourself and you're training people, those are instances that you may want to not do fast concentrics all the time, or if you're just training yourself and you're new. Another one is working around an injury. I'm not saying work through an injury. If you have a bicep tear and you need to get it fixed, or you need to get surgery, don't do bicep curls. But I'm talking about, like, let's just say you have a leg injury and you want to train upper body, but you know, leg injuries can hinder a lot of upper body movements too. You may not want to do fast concentrics every single time. Again, you don't want to hurt yourself and cause the injury to get worse, or let's just say you're starting to heal up, you don't want to cause the injury to come back up again. So again, you got to think about that. And the last one is breaking plateaus and using new techniques. It might not be new techniques. I don't mean necessarily like a technique you've never done before. Like when it comes to an exercise, it might be like a new technique in the sense of, like, let's just say you consistently do fast concentrics on pull-ups. Let's just say you're trying a different pull-up variation. That really isn't hard for you to do, but it's just different. Maybe you're trying tempo pull-ups where you do 1.5 reps, or you're trying to do different types of pull-ups with different tempos and things. Or like I said, you're just trying to break past the plateau. If you're let's just say you're not trying a new exercise, you're an experienced lifter, your goals are strength and hypertrophy, that would fall under doing fast concentrics most of the time. If you always did fast concentrics, you're never going to, you might hit a plateau relatively soon. And again, fast concentrics are, if let's just say you only do fast concentrics, that means that you're automatically telling me you're not doing any isometric exercises, and you're not doing any maybe I guess it would be fast as you could do, but maybe you're not doing, you're not specifically targeting eccentric overload at any point during your training cycle. So again, you got to think about that, and if you want to break plateaus, I would definitely do that. And the last thing that I didn't put up here, but the study talked about, is that fast concentrics will more than likely help your gains, but it was only when volume, obviously, and this is kind of obvious for people who know studies and understand lift or technique and making gains a little bit more. That's when volume and load were equated between two groups. So if you have a group that's lifting slow on the concentric and slow on the eccentric, and then you have a group that's lifting fast on the concentric, but they're doing half as much volume and they're both within the realm of reasonable volume, the group that's doing the slow concentric is probably going to make more gains. Another thing too is if you're training to failure, more than likely repetition speeds aren't going to have a ton of impact on your gains. I would still recommend training fast concentrics, but again, training to failure, I wouldn't, if you're training to failure, it wouldn't make a huge impact. If you're, let's just say you look back on your training like, oh, I never did concentrics fast, I just wasted all my gains. But you've been training to failure, again, it's not gonna make that big of an impact. But the key thing with this is, and I did a video on this in the past, you should not always be training to failure. So if you're not training to failure and you're in a period where you're not training to failure, I would definitely recommend lifting the concentric as fast as possible. If you wanna go check out that video, definitely go check that out. It would pair really well with this video. Again, thank you for watching the video. Please go check out my website, exercisesciencepodcast.com, and patreon.com/JPFitness for all you exercise enthusiasts. But until next time, I'll see you later.